Welcome to the MAM Journals here in lockdown Britain. It's a series of 6 videos. The first one is this one, which is an introductory, just describing what the journals will be covering, and the following 5 will be on specific bikes, and they're equally designed at what I would describe as an introductory level, i.e. I hope that they're bikes that you've either seen or you've liked a bit in the past and you just like to know a little bit more, and I'll be covering in the videos the history and the heritage of the bikes, why they were in the market, some of the technicalities and what it's like to actually run and own one in the modern world. Whilst it is aimed at an introductory level, there may be 1 or 2 very knowledgeable people who are kind enough to watch, and if you've got any additional comments or insight or depth of knowledge you'd be prepared to share, it'd be most welcome. I don't know about you, but in lockdown Britain I've watched more YouTube motorcycle videos than any time in my life. And one of the things that interests me as I watch the videos is I wonder how they got their passion in bikes. And what I'd like to do now is just spend a few minutes talking about how I got the interest and got the bug many years ago, but I'm conscious that some of you may not be interested in that and you may prefer to go straight to one of the bikes, in which case please feel free to join on one of the links below. For those of you kind enough to take an interest, my passion came about really in the 70s. I'm a baby boomer, I was born in the 60s, and the bikes of the 60s and were really largely British, singles or twins, and were often grey in colour and equally in imagination in my view. But in the late 60s Honda bought out a 754, although we didn't see many of those certainly in the town where I was going to school. But the early 70s they began to creep into Market Square car parks, and I can remember in particular 1973 I went down to the Market Square and I saw a Kawasaki Z1, a 900cc rocket ship, 4 exhausts, and with a speedo that suggested it did 160 miles an hour. In reality it didn't, it did 130 miles an hour, but I have to tell you, in 1973, 130 miles an hour on a motorbike was warp speed. These were bikes that triggered imagination of young men across the country, and it was the spawning of a generation of motorcyclists, supported by the fact that at that point you could get mopeds that actually looked like bikes and affordable for some 16 and 17 year olds. The 70s was a pretty tough economic period, and it was pretty grey. 3-day weeks, power strikes, and a lot of industrial unrest. Motorcycles were a release for many young men, and I include myself in that. The first bike that I ever rode was actually a Honda SS50. A friend of mine, foolishly as it turned out, said, "Would you like a go?" So I said, "Well, how do you ride it?" He says, "It's really easy. You twist the throttle and you drop the clutch." Now, being somebody who likes to follow instructions explicitly, I did exactly that and managed to flip his deposit on his Yamaha 250 within 5 yards. He wasn't best pleased, although the fact that he turned out to be my best man at my wedding suggested he did actually get over it. The first bike that I owned, I'd moved to London for a job and I needed to get around, so I bought myself a Honda G5. Not the most inspiring of bikes, but I did manage to sort of wobble around London and stay mostly upright. The first new bike I bought, and this is a confessional, was a 250N Super Dream, which wasn't much of a dream, but it was at least a first new bike. I actually moved back out of London and was looking for a new job, and I saw a job advertised at a Honda motorcycle dealer for a general dog's body. And with apologies obviously to any generals, dogs or bodies offended by that comment, but in those days it was perfectly acceptable to have that sort of a role. It was great fun. I got the job, and one of the big virtues was you got a company bike. for a young man passionate about motorcycles, what could get better than that? So I had a great time for a few years working in that environment, and I worked with a great team of people really who were certainly energetic, oblique, slightly crazy. Most of them raced. One of them was a very good road racer. One of them was a good grass tracker, and the third was, just to prove he was completely certifiable, used to race sidecars at the Isle of Man. I wanted to get involved in motorsport, but I wasn't particularly keen to just replicate what they were doing. So actually I went off and did a few years of national enduro, which was a great experience. You certainly learn a lot of bike control, and most of your accidents, and you have plenty of them, are at relatively slow speeds, and you've got something soft to land on. So I'd highly commend that to anybody starting their motorcycling career. Get off-road and learn some of the skills that will be exceptionally helpful to you on the road if you ever need them, and hopefully you don't. Since that time, I've probably been fortunate enough to have about 40 bikes. Some of them have obviously gone, but I have managed to hang on to a few. And what I suggest we do now is we'll have a look around some of the bikes in this particular garage, and we'll pick the 5 that I think would be fun to cover and we'll be able to talk about. Right, so let's have a little walk around the garage. The first bike there, the black Suzuki GSX 1000, I'm not actually going to do a specific video on that one. The reason why I've got it is it's a very comfortable upright bike with a fantastic 150 horsepower engine in it, and I think if we are going to cover that, if there's any interest, it'll probably be best done when we're actually allowed to ride again, and I'll pop a camera on it and show you what it's actually good at. Second bike is another Suzuki. That's a Suzuki GSXR 750, which is of course a 750 and a 600 frame. Fantastic heritage, and I think that'd be well worth talking about. And like all Suzuki's, got that fantastic howl. Sadly, we won't be hearing them in lockdown, but I'm looking forward to getting out on it. That bike is the L3. I actually bought one of those when they came out new in 2013, and I foolishly sold it because I felt it was too close to other bikes that I've got. But I woke up one morning and thought, I shouldn't have done that. I will try and find myself another one. And if I can find a one owner, less than 2,000 mile bike, I'll take it. And ironically, a week later, I found just that. That particular bike's got 800 miles on it. And I'm looking forward to it. I bought it last year. I'm looking forward to getting out on it if we're ever allowed to. I'm sure we will. This bike is a bike I think we should definitely cover. I sort of touched on its older brother, but smaller, in my introductory chat. The bike that so inspired me. That's a Z1000. That's an A1, a 1977 year old vintage bike. It's actually my second Z1000 of that type. And I think we can probably have an interesting 10 minutes on the history and heritage of that bike and where it fits in motorcycling history. It actually ties in really well. I'll just pan round here because I think I'll do that one with it. That's the Z900 RS, which I bought when they came out new in 2018. I have to say I was initially a bit underwhelmed, but I'm pleased to say I was wrong. It's a great bike, and we'll compare that with the original Z1 and performance and specs, looks, and I think it'll make an interesting video. And I think we should also cover the fact that so many people are enjoying modifying them. That's actually a standard bike, but a lot of people have a lot of fun doing it, and I think it's worthy of interest and comment. Two bikes there which actually naturally should get covered. Bikes of a similar era and very similar in approach and objective. The first on the right hand side is a 996R Ducati that was launched in 2001, and the one next to it, which is the bike we're going to cover in the first video, is a Honda SP1, or an RC51 as they were known in America, which was launched in 2000. So I think we'll enjoy going through the details of those. So what I'll do now is I'll get it out and film that specific coverage. But before I close, I'd just like to thank you, if you've listened so far, for doing so, and say if you've got any comments or observations, then please feel free to make them below, because these are early days of the journals, and it'd be great to work with you as to you telling me what sort of things you'd like to cover, what areas you find of interest and what less so, and we'll see if we can grow it as we go. Anyway, thank you for your time. Thank you very much for listening. I hope you enjoy the videos.